Welcome to SQL Server classes. So we have categorized this course in multiple modules. So in this particular module number one, we are going to discuss about introduction of database and transact SQL. The objective would be for this particular module would be the architecture of SQL Server, DBMS versus RDBMS, SQL Server versions and differences, about SQL Server Management Studio, introduction of TSQL, logical order of select statement. So first thing, before knowing anything about SQL Server, so you should know about this is a database, and especially SQL Server is RDBMS. So before knowing RDBMS, you should know about database, tables, and other thing. So what is database? A database can be defined as collection of meaningful information, meaningful data. What is meaningful? Let's say if I take a name Ram. What is this? Ram is a name, right? It could be a name of a person, it could be a name of a building, it could be a name of anything, right? So until unless we are not defining what is Ram, you will not be able to know what is Ram. To define it, you have to put it in two ways. One is unstructured data. So what you can say, Ram is a god. So this is meaningful. If you put the same information in a table, like you have a serial number, you have name, or you can say god name, then you will be putting it like one, then god name is Ram. So this information become meaningful. So such type of information which is meaningful will be called as database. Here we have given a couple of examples like a building name, flat number in the building, road name, area name, estate name. So collection of all this information will be a database. Now I'll explain you what is database management system. Database management system, like how you can manage your data. Like let's suppose there is a table where you can insert the data, where you can update the required data, where you can delete the data, or you can say where you can process the data. Okay, the system where you can do all these things will be called as database management system. So for example, let's say Microsoft Excel, you can insert the data, you can update the data, you can delete the data. So you can say yes, this is also a database management system where you can manage the data. You can manage the data in Notepad also. You can manage the data in Word file also. But in Word or Notepad, it will not be in tabular format. But yes, you can manage the data there also. Okay. So what is DBMS? What are the benefits of DBMS? The benefit of DBMS are the amount of data redundancy in stored data can be reduced. So if you have data in tabular format, you can reduce the duplicacy from your data, and the data that you have stored can be shared by with single or multiple users. Data security can be simply implemented. You can, like if I talk about Excel, why I'm taking example of Excel, because most of you would be knowing about Excel. So you can protect your file. You can apply a password on your file. You can secure your data into that file. Standards can be set and followed. Like whatever the standard you want to set, you can set. For example, let's say if you have set the standard that I want a number in this particular column, then you have to follow. There are some certain validations that you can apply, and you can force your user to put a number only. Even you can define the age also. Like let's say you have a file where you have a column named as age. You can define that the age should not be greater than 100. You can define such rules, and whomsoever will be using that file has to follow those standards. So this is all about database management system. So I'm just giving you overview because we need to discuss about SQL Server. So I'll just give you overview. Now RDBMS. RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. It is again a database management system itself. But there would be a relation between databases. What kind of relationship? Primary key, foreign key relationship. You can connect two DBMS together. So that is RDBMS. Relational Database Management System got introduced by Dr. Edgar F. Codd. He defined 12 rules and said that any software that want to become RDBMS has to follow those 12 rules. For example, SQL follows those rules. Now I'll come to discuss about the differences between DBMS and RDBMS. To understand it easily, I will take Excel as an example, BMS, SQL as an example for RDBMS. Excel does not provide any client server architecture where you can provide now you need to understand what is client server architecture. To understand client server architecture, just I will open Microsoft SQL Server. So let me open that. SSMS. SSMS stands for SQL Server Management Studio. You can see on my screen. So when you open, it asks for the server details. Like you have to enter the server name. Okay. So it is a server that your client owns. You have to provide that server details. So this structure you will not see in Microsoft Excel. That's why it is called client server architecture. So you have to provide the client system name, server name. If there are actually two ways, like one is Windows authentication, the other one is SQL Server authentication. Means you are authenticating your Windows to get you login in this SQL Server. If you put SQL Server authentication, so you have to provide user ID and password. So here I am going to use Windows authentication. That means I have authenticated my Windows to use the same credentials and let me log in on SQL Server. This client server architecture you will not see in Microsoft Excel. You will see that most of the RDBMS supports client server architecture. DBMS does not support distributed databases. Means distribution of databases. There would not you will not find in any Excel file that you have this kind of mechanism. But in most of the RDBMS supports distributed databases. For example, you can see the database distribution is already there. On system level, on user level, you can see master model. These are the distribution of databases. There are different role and responsibility of each databases. Next, in DBMS there is no security of data. I will not agree on this point, but yes, there are some extra level of securities there in Microsoft SQL Server. In RDBMS, like in Excel, you can put you can protect your Excel file, but in RDBMS there are multiple level of security. Like you can login level security. Like you have seen that when I was logged in, it was asking for the user ID and password, or you have to enter Windows authentication. You have to provide these details, then only you can log in on SQL Server. And then again there are command level security. Like if you are allowed or permitted to insert the data, only then you can insert the data. If you are allowed to delete the data, only then you can delete the data. So those kind of command level securities are there. Then we have DBMS. The next difference is DBMS may satisfy less than 7 to 8 rules of Dr. E.F. Codd, while RDBMS usually satisfy more than 7 to 8 rules of Dr. E.F. Codd. So you might have noticed that we are talking about like RDBMS has to follow 12 rules, but here we are saying there is a contradictory, right? But Microsoft would have realized that if we will follow those 12 rules, SQL will be very complicated. That's why you will see that if we there are some normalization techniques. As per book, you should follow all those normalization rules. But as per industry, I could see very few companies or none of the companies are following those normalization techniques. Coming to the next point, this is database key. There are several keys got defined on SQL Server. Like you might have heard about primary key, foreign key. So in that term, we will discuss about different keys in terms of RDBMS. Okay, as per RDBMS, there are several keys got defined, like super key. Super key is combination of fields within a table that uniquely identify each record within that table. In SQL, you can say this is a primary key. Primary key, we call it in terms of SQL Server. But in RDBMS, we call the same as super key. Candidate keys, like here for I have taken one example here, like student ID. In a table where we have stored all the information related to student, so you can you can see that this student ID is unique in this table. So this is a super key. But in this particular table, if you will notice, first name and last name, combination of first name and last name can also make a unique value for this entire table. That can be a super key again. So there are chances that you can find multiple super keys in a table. It depends on you that you choose for a primary key or super. As I said, candidate key is, so this is super key. Candidate key. Candidate key is subset of super key. Subset means this student ID is subset. And if I talk about, if we consider this example where we are taking the combination of first name and last name to make a super key, first name and last name is subset for the super key. So individually these key will be called as candidate key. So this is all about super key and candidate key. Now I will talk about other keys. What we have? Secondary key or alternative key. So as you have seen that we had multiple choices to make a super key. So the one you have chosen for super key will be a super key, or you can say a primary key. But the one which is left will be called as alternative. For example, student ID, if you have chosen as a primary key or super key, then combination of first name and last name will be remained as alternative. You can call it as secondary key or alternative key. Then we have simple key. Simple key is a key. Again, it is related to super key itself. Let's say you have chosen student ID, because solely it can make a super key in the table. This will be called as simple. This combination of first name and last name cannot be called as simple key because we are combining two different fields. So this student ID can be called as simple. So there are slight difference, not much. So you can consider it as this is a very nice example you have seen here. Okay, so you can relate it, you can understand well. Now I will talk about primary key. There are some other properties of primary key that we will discuss in detail. Let's say we have a student ID. As we said, like the primary key will be unique. You can uniquely identify each and every record in the table if you have a primary. So sometimes student ask, can we insert duplicate record if I have already defined primary key? So the answer would be no. You cannot insert duplicate record. It will give you error. You cannot insert duplicate record. Can we insert null record? No. You cannot insert null record in your table if you have defined primary key. For that particular field, if I say, can we insert null in the first name column? Yes, you can insert null in the first name column. But you cannot insert null in the student ID column because primary key cannot consist a null value. This is about primary key. Now I will talk about foreign key. it would be slightly difficult for you, but I will explain you later when I will be covering constants in practical. But for now, I will tell you the definition. Let's say we have two tables where we have course ID, course name. Course ID is a primary key in this table. So suppose that at Wi-Fi learning, we are offering so many courses, but yes, there would be number of courses, right? Let's say we are offering four courses: accounts, computing, history, and short courses. These are four courses. A student comes up and say that I want maths classes, but we are not offering maths classes. So in our database, when he will try to search, when he will try to enroll for maths, it will give error because of relationship. So when course ID will be getting checked in, and this one, like this math will not be there in that table, it will give you error because of relationship. This kind of relationship is called as foreign key relationship. So the record has to be there in the primary key column. So the table, in this table, primary key is course ID, and the in the other table where we are putting student information, this course ID would be foreign key. We will take example. We will show you how it can make a difference. How, what kind of error you will get during insertion.